Hey everyone, my name is KARMAAA, and today, boy, do I have a surprise for you guys at the end of this video. But first, we gotta get through all the boring stuff, so let's get right into it. It was confirmed today that the Australian player Havoc was leaving the team, the LA Renegades, for the new rising Australian player who's still there to take his place. Now, what's most interesting about this is that Havoc was one of the last remnants of the first Vox Eminor lineup, and he was actually part of the core of the Renegades lineup, really towards the end of 2015. And I mean, as such, he's always been a part of the best Australian team, so this is actually a pretty monumental thing in the history of CSGO. Now, I'm not going to lie here, Havoc was never ever one of the best players on the team, and really since the acquisition of Yam, he didn't have a dedicated role in the team. Havoc's overall skill also wasn't that great. He was more of a hybrid type of player who focused on working with a rifle and an AWP at the same time, and in the Australian region, he fulfilled that role really well, but when it came to international matches, Renegades needed a little bit something more. They needed a more powerful rifler or a more powerful AWPer. So, yeah, when you look at it this way, from a role standpoint, it was probably best that Renegades replaced him for a more skilled and dedicated rifler in the likes of Ustillo. The reasons being that, well, Yam and Havoc's roles generally overlapped. I mean, Yam for a long time had been known as one of the best Australian players in the local scene. He was really great with the AWP. So as a result, they thought, with Top Gun leaving, maybe we can pick up Yam, get him to use the AWP, and maybe if he doesn't feel like using it, then Havoc can use it. Now, when Havoc was actually in the team, because he was in Vox Eminor for so long, and he was actually playing people like Yam all the time, and beating them in finals, and using the AWP when needed, Vox probably didn't see much of a problem with it. But when they hit the international scene, and their horizons expanded into North America also, it became clear that the team really did need to seek an AWPer and fulfill that AWP role. So by setting Havoc aside as a rifler and making him more like a secondary AWPer, with the voluntary departure of Top Gun, they were able to pick up Yam, and Yam became probably what was known as probably the biggest flop in terms of the Australian scene in terms of a pickup. Now, I want to say that picking up Yam was actually kind of a smart decision also, as it made Renegades generally much more threatening against the likes of teams such as Cloud9, the old Titan that had Kenny S, Na'Vi, and even Dignitas, who had strong AWPers in the likes of Shazam, Kenny S, Guardian, and Nico, respectively. But there really was an innate problem, which was that Yam simply wasn't in the type of form to challenge these AWPers, and with very little experience under his belt in terms of international lands, combined with the fact that Havoc and the rest of the team weren't really performing so well, much of the team's firepower then fell onto Azza and JKS, so really the decision started to become clear after about 2 or 3 months within Renegades, which was either you bank on a player like Yam to rise back to his well-regarded form, and let him play really the role that he was supposed to play instead of sharing it with Havoc, or bank on Havoc becoming better and increasing his rifle power. And it really seemed like Renegades wanted to keep Havoc. I think they really liked the guy. He was a decent kind of player. If he improved his level, they definitely could have won way more matches, but by pushing him towards a more second man in kind of role on T sides behind Azza and a rifle support on bomb sites, it just led to him still having poor performances and generally didn't fill that role as best as another player could, for instance. So, alas, the results for Renegades also only got worse. I mean, they weren't winning BO1s against European teams anymore. They failed to qualify for a major, which was DreamHack Cluj-Napoca. And as time went on, Havoc himself also was not clearly improving. So Yam was really the person that had average performances, and he was really inconsistent. So that may actually lie on the fact that he had a lot of role problems within the team because Havoc was kind of taking up his space. And I feel if you give Yam all the freedom that he needs with the AWP and rely on him as the sole AWPer, he can become a much better player. Now, Havoc's replacement is no pushover. I mean, Ustillo is currently, I would have to say, Australia's 4th best player. and evidently he's got an HLTV.org rating of 0.90, which is tied with Yam. He's ahead of Havoc by 0.01 on the rating. But what you have to really remember is that he comes from the second best Australian team, and the second best Australian team is really the only other place other than maybe NA that you can get someone with lots of LAN experience. So this is what you have to really remember. Even though these stats are kind of skewed, basically Ustillo was carrying Immunity. He was always towards the top of the leaderboard in terms of matches, usually around 3rd place if he had a pretty bad performance. So when Immunity wasn't playing that well, Ustillo was still doing quite decent. So suffice to say, from my experience of watching Ustillo over the years, he's an aggressive rifler and he's got a decent amount of skill in terms of the international scene. But his fallback is much like Yam's, which is that unfortunately he doesn't have as much international LAN experience as the other players in Renegades, and when they picked up both players respectively, it became kind of clear that you needed a little bit more experience for these guys. But the other problem is that these players are also incredibly inconsistent, which I think goes hand in hand with their LAN experience in terms of the international scene. So I think it really comes down to both Yam and Ustillo really like to play this hyper-aggressive playstyle where they try to take aim duels, they try to take lots of fights that probably they're not going to win, and extend into areas very quickly on their own. Now, I'm not really knocking Ustillo and Yam since, well, particularly Ustillo doesn't really have to do much to really improve Renegades in terms of actually lifting his ability above Havoc's, but I can't help but feel the Renegades have made really a choice that has very little gain. In Immunity, Ustillo's role was more that of an entry fragger, and most likely that led to his inconsistency and decent kind of rating. I would have really preferred a pickup from the North American scene, as most of those players are much more consistent, they have much more LAN experience, etc, etc, but with pickups such as Fugly, Daps, and other NA talents stuck in contracts via the evidential pickups from Cloud9 such as Stewie2K, which was a free agent, it's easy to see why Renegades went with someone that they know and have prior experience with somewhat from their scene. So I can only hope in a much more experienced and structured team like Renegades, Ustillo can really reach his potential and at least do better than Havoc did and provide a much more skilled lineup for Renegades going into the Turner and ESL Pro Leagues. Now, I feel that Ustillo, if he truly wants to be successful in this lineup, he has to fill that gap that Renegades really has, which is a very consistent player. Now, they originally had that in Azza, but Azza's kind of fell off a little bit. JKS is kind of like the lurker, so he has to be basically like Crims, you know, he has to play a very similar kind of style where he sets up great duels for himself and uses his immense skill to basically lock out bomb sites on CT side, and then on T side he just has to get really good trades. But then again, that really requires Ustillo taking some time, learning a new style, and I just don't see that happening for a while. Anyway, at the end of the day, I think Ustillo can do much more than Havoc did, but at the same time, I don't know if Renegades truly picked up someone who can really advance that lineup further than what's really required for them to become really a staple within the international scene and break into that top 10. So, I want to close with a poem, guys. This is the surprise, and it's about Havoc and the hope or true blue spirit of Australia in the Renegades as they move forward into 2016. Havoc, a man who was once here, replaced by a guy who many fear. His name is Ustillo, shed a tear, as cold as ice, cold as our beer. Here's to hoping Renegades become top tier. So Havoc, we will miss you, I wish you luck in what you do, but remember, always remember, you represented red, white, and blue.